once again from the wastelands of the internet. It is I, the Nomad, to give you the news. Good morning, Mr. Barkley, and good morning to the audience. I hope that you're all doing well. I know that there are several people who are not doing the best because they have certain illnesses. Acquaintances of mine. I hope they get better soon. One of which is they say they have COVID again. You know, the COVID bug has risen once more. But we have news. We have news. So let's get started, shall we? Alrighty. From the BBC, Rosenberg. What's behind Putin's uncompromising stance in the Ukraine? Oh, I cannot wait to get into this. Sometimes it's not what's said that makes the biggest impression, it's the reaction. In the Russian Far East, Vladimir Putin delivered a warning to the West. Don't even think about sending soldiers, and that includes peacekeepers to the Ukraine. If some troops appear there, the Russian president said, especially now while the fighting is going on, we proceed from the premise that these will be legitimate targets for destruction. Then the reaction. The audience at the Economic Forum in Vladivostok burst into applause, with Russian officials and business leaders apparently welcoming the threat to destroy Western troops. What is this idiot even talking about? Nothing against you, dude. Mr. Good old Stevie Rosenberg here. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. Okay? Observing the scene in the hall, I found the applause quite chilling. You see, idiots like this, idiots like Steve, are why we are having problems there in the first place. Okay? You keep going back to this time and time and time again. But you're not really serious. Europe is not serious about peace. Okay? Nowhere in this piece, nowhere in this article, Steve, do you bring that up. Ukraine and Europe are focused on ending the fighting, shaping security guarantees for Kiev, and making sure the Ukrainian army is strong enough post-war to prevent another invasion. Okay? I love this comment here too. Then there's America. Last month, U.S. President Donald Trump invited Putin to Alaska for a summit meeting. Back home, pro-Kremlin commentators hailed the event as evidence that Western efforts to isolate Russia over the war had failed. He's right. They have failed. Now, people want to sit up there and say, well, the reason it's failing is because of India, and the reason it's failing is because of China. No, the reason it's failing is because of Europe. Well, the U.S. needs to put the harder sanctions. What more sanctions can we put on Russia? I'm totally serious about this. What more sanctions can we do? Oh, well, you could do the banking issues. There's some things in banking that we could do. Oh, really? And how do we do those without European support? In order for the banking systems to be put in place, Europe has to be willing to agree to it. And guess what? Even now, even after they said, oh no, we'll stop buying oil from Russia, they're still buying oil from Russia. Oh no, we'll listen to you, America. Stab in the back, stab in the back. Please, please, use more of your treasure, stab in the back. We don't want this to happen. That's all they've done to us. It's getting close. I'm hoping Trump realizes, and I'm hoping America realizes, okay, that we need to start getting close to saying, you know what, Europe, if you're going to constantly stab us in the back by lying about what you're doing, about lying about being serious, about lying about taking this on, then screw you. Let's go take a look at Live Map, shall we? Live Map in the wonderful area where everything is going on. All right. And what do you see here? One of the things that caught my eye is this. There's almost no reported action here. Now, why? All right. It could be because of more action in this area here, where you're seeing a village being said, okay, we're completely occupied now without any freaking conflict around it. All right. They're showing fighting all along this front line, okay, but in the area where they're talking about, oh, no, there's not any movement, it looks to me as if this is a nice little pocket forming, all right, around this big industrial area here. And I'm wondering whether or not the next push is it going to be along the lines to come down this way and come up this way and basically close this off, or if they're basically allowing the Ukrainians to leave and take this without any bloodshed. Meanwhile, the bloodshed over here continues. All right, as they finish off this pocket, which I had mentioned days and days ago, weeks ago. I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, but Russia militarily is winning this conflict. Well, how do you stop it? Well, I ask the Europeans. It's their war. We've given them arms, we've given them the things, the tools to sit up there and do this, but the Europeans have no intention of actually helping the United States in trying to stop the conflict. We sit up there and put on tariffs and sanctions on India for buying Russian oil. This was because the Europeans had agreed, okay, yeah, we're going to stop buying oil. And what do we find? The Europeans still buying oil, and they refuse to reciprocate, all right, against India. It's always with the Europeans. They want to have their cake and eat it too, as long as they don't have to pay the price. we will talk about immigration a little bit later, but Israel calls on famine-stricken Gaza City residents to leave as it targets high-rises. The Israeli army Saturday called Saturday on Palestinians in Gaza City to move to humanitarian area it designated in the south as it expands its operations in preparation for seizing the famine-stricken city, including targeting high-rise buildings. Parts of the city, home to nearly 1 million people, have already been considered red zones where evacuation orders have been issued ahead of an expected offensive. Aid groups have repeatedly warned that a large-scale evacuation of Gaza City would exacerbate the dire humanitarian situation. There is no humanitarian situation. Oh man, not because you said it, there's people starving. Nope. What you have are people who are willing to martyr themselves and martyr their children through starvation for Hamas. That's what you have. Oh, that isn't true. They don't like Hamas. Then why are they staying there? Why are they listening to Hamas? Why aren't they moving to the humanitarian areas, all right, that are being set up by the Israelis? Because they hate the Israelis, they hate Israel to the point where they're willing to martyr their children through starvation. Well, you gotta understand, no man. You gotta understand. No, I don't have to understand anything. I think you people need to understand what you're actually freaking dealing with. Okay, this is a savage, murdering culture. Okay, that these people live in and refuse to give up. They believe going in there and bashing the heads of toddlers is perfectly acceptable, all right, and that according to the Quran, they're still going to heaven for doing it, for supporting it, especially if their children starve to death, all right, for Hamas. That's what you're dealing with. Now, I know a lot of people say are like, well, that's ridiculous. You're saying they're irrational. No, I'm not saying they're irrational. This is the problem with idiots like the Wafa Sharifa and Basim Maruk, who wrote this freaking thing. They keep freaking telling people, look, if you don't want to starve to death, but nobody wants to listen to who these people actually are. They don't want to listen to these people. And they took a poll of Palestinians, all right, which is not just the people in the Gaza Strip, but Palestinians. And 70% of the people, all right, stated, and the UN is the one who did this freaking study, 70% said it was perfectly fine to strap explosives on a 5-year-old to blow up other 5-year-olds. %70%. In Gaza, it was over 90. That's how these people actually think culturally. You better start coming to the conclusion of who these people are. Liberals and these Islamo-fascists are peas in a pod, folks. This is something that a lot of people don't understand. And they're peas in the pod because of who they are. Mentally, all right, they take the easy way out every single time. And what's even worse is mentally, they don't believe in any kind of personal accountability and responsibility. I'm doing this because somebody else is responsible for the actions. I'm throwing firebombs because you're arresting illegal aliens and I'm against that and I'm throwing firebombs and I'm perfectly justified. That's the thinking of the left. It's the same thinking for the people in Palestine. I'm giving money and then I'm allowing Hamas to run wild because, well, according to the Quran, they're the leaders and all the sins go on them. Oh, I personally wouldn't bash children, but I'll give money and support and weapons to the people that do. That's not a sin on my part. I'll support them. I'll just keep them in power. I will put my child in front of the Israelis trying to kill them. All right, because they'll be martyred that way, and Allah is good, Allahu Akbar. That's what you're dealing with. That's the mental cultural grouping of these people that you're dealing with. This is why you're having problems in Dearborn, Michigan. This is why you got idiots in frickin' England, all right? Oh, well, there's going to be some areas that we're just going to have to realize they're going to be running on a Sharia law. That's the kind of stupidity that you're dealing with. I got distracted. There's a movie called Clown in the Cornfield. All right. Israeli army announces new humanitarian zone in the Gaza Strip. From Zinhao News. Israeli Defense Force IDF on Saturday announced a new humanitarian zone in the southern Gaza Strip ahead of its planned operation to capture Gaza City in the north. The designated humanitarian zone was set by Khan Yunis in light of expansion of the ground cooperation in Gaza City and takeover of Hamas strongholds as part of Operation Gideon's Chariots 2, the IDF statement read. The IDF said the newly designated area contains key humanitarian infrastructure, including field hospitals, water pipelines, and desalination facilities, while also ensuring the continued delivery of food, tents, medicine, and medical equipment. The IDF Arabic language spokesman, I'm not going to butcher your name, called on Gaza City residents in a social media post to seize the opportunity and move to the humanitarian zone early. Understand this, folks. Understand this before you come back and go, oh, that'd be just too much work. The entire Gaza Strip is 2 miles wide. It's about 10 miles to 14 miles long. They could walk into these freaking humanitarian zones at any point in time easily. Within 20 minutes of slow walking, you can be there. You can walk, not drive, walk to these areas. Of course, you'd have to give up your guns, and you'd have to give up being a freaking human shield for Hamas. But see, starvation is what these people don't care about. Hamas and keeping Hamas around is more important to them than basically the lives of their children starving to death. And it's not irrational. It's their belief. This is the same problem you had when people were sort of throwing themselves off of cliffs after we invaded Okinawa and Iwo Jima. All right, the civilian population killing themselves by the tens of thousands because of their fear of what they thought they knew about the Americans. All right, soldiers who were coming in. NATO chief warns China and Russia are prepping for a new long-term confrontation. Ellen Milligan. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte warned that Russia and China are preparing their defense industries for long-term confrontation. All right, they are preparing for the defense industries for long-term confrontation after Presidents Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, all right, led a parade of Beijing's new military hardware. No, they didn't lead the parade. Good God. Attended a parade, dumbass. We face serious and lasting threats. Russia and China are investing heavily to build up and modernize their militaries. Why is this guy a NATO secretary? Why is this guy the NATO Secretary General? Get rid of him. Freaking get rid of him. No, man. What's wrong? What's wrong? What did... The guy said nothing. Well, he's telling people... We already know this. China And Russia have been doing this for how many decades? It's getting close to a century now for China. All right? And the Soviet Union, oh, you mean Russia, okay? Depending on how you look at it, they've been doing this for centuries. They're not acting any different than they've always acted. There's literally nothing new here. And this guy acts like, oh, this is a grand pronouncement. And this stupid bint Ellen McGillen, I'm assuming your gender from the name. Oh, we gotta tell the world about this. Oh my God! Fire them. The U.S. needs to get out of NATO as soon as possible. Tim Burchett and a protester get into a physical altercation on Capitol Hill. GOP Representative Tim Burchett got into a physical altercation with a protester Thursday outside Longworth House office building in Washington. The demonstrator approached Burchett with criticisms on the handling of the war in Gaza and later bumped the lawmaker. No, he didn't. He later attacked the lawmaker. This is why you can't trust these people, all right, from the Hill. Ashley Fields, you basically are trying to hide the fact that another leftist goes out of there and physically accosts somebody on the right, and it's perfectly acceptable to you. This is the problem with the Hill. This is the problem with all these left-wing bring back duels. Hey! Somebody who understands it like I do. I agree. Bring back dueling. You want to sit up there and start holding people accountable personally? Bring back dueling. You want to challenge somebody to a duel? You were upset with them? Challenge them to a duel. Just be prepared that when you challenge somebody to do a duel, all right, they can sit up there and choose a second. Just remember that. I honestly think we need to bring back dueling. It would fix a lot of these attitude problems that a lot of these freaking people, like this supposed protest. This guy should be in jail and being charged with assault. That's who this leftist, filthy little leftist commie bastard is. And you notice how they avoid as much as they can saying the names of these people. They know exactly who this guy is, but they're trying to protect the little commie bastard. Right, Ashley? From the way it's spelled, I assume it's a woman who wrote this. I'm starting to see a trend here. Trump weighs targeting cartels inside Venezuela, part of a wider pressure campaign on Maduro, says sources. President Trump is weighing a multitude of options for carrying out military strikes against drug cartels operating in Venezuela, including potentially hitting targets inside the country, as part of a broader strategy aimed at weakening leader Nicolas Maduro during, according to multiple sources, briefed on the administration's plans. Now, gee, I wonder who those multiple sources are that were quote unquote briefed on administration plans. Can we say that there was a classified briefing that was given to Democratic Congress people, all right, and that they're the ones leaking this? They're the ones who are basically the quote unquote multiple sources? Tuesday's deadly strike on an alleged drug boat departing Venezuela was a direct reflection of those options, sources said, and marked a significant escalation in the Trump administration's campaign against drug cartels, many of which it's designated as terrorist groups. Multiple sources told CNN Tuesday's strike was just the beginning of a much larger effort to rid the region of narcotics trafficking and potentially dislodge Maduro from power. Uh, really? The U.S. has moved substantial firepower into the Caribbean in recent weeks, a move meant in part to be a signal to Maduro, according to multiple White House officials. Ships armed with Tomahawk missiles, an attack submarine, a range of aircraft, and more than 4,000 U.S. soldiers, or sailors, and Marines are now all positioned near Venezuela. Two White House officials told CNN 10 advanced F 35 fighter jets are also being sent to Puerto Rico, where a Marine unit is currently conducting amphibious training exercises, like they always do. Now, should we invade Venezuela? No, I don't think we need to invade Venezuela, but we could bomb it out of existence. But that's how we should be doing a lot of these things. But of course, the world would cry about a lot of it too. Meanwhile, in a ridiculous story from Bloomberg, U.S. strike on alleged cartel, but it's alleged cartel boat. Has anybody seen the video of the strike? All right. Has anybody even seen the strike video? I'm just curious because I have. Okay, I have. Well, let me look for it here. Let's see if we can find if I can find the video of this thing. Okay, here we go. This stop right now. Let's stop this right here. Look at this. Look at this boat. Okay. I want you to look at this boat. Tell me what this boat is doing. Look at how it's designed. Okay? Look at it. It's got 4 massive outboard engines on an ocean-going boat. Does this look like a frickin' trawler to anybody? Does this look like a fishing trawler? Does it look like these guys are out for a fishing trip? What are these packages laying around on this thing? Right? Well, I could blow this up a little bit. Let me expand this. Look at these engines. There's no fishing gear. There's no tack anything along here, right? What the hell would you think this boat was for? If this is not a freaking drug speedboat, all right? The only reason I don't think this is a pirate ship, the only reason I don't think that this is a pirate ship is because there's not enough people. There's not enough people on board. You can see the people on board. There's only like 5 or 6 people on board. Normally, if you were a pirate ship, there'd be all sorts of there'd be like 20 of these things would be heavily loaded, right? And then you see it taken out, and we're going to stop this here and there because right there. Now, this is interesting because I don't know what the hell hit this. All of a sudden, it blew up. Now, it could have been, who knows where it came from and what it was, but that's what you're dealing with. And these people go, it was an alleged narco boat. Can't you just be honest? Bloomberg? I had to lean in to see even when you were making it bigger. The U.S. strike that blew up an alleged Venezuelan drug running boat in the Caribbean, killing 11 people, marked a dramatic escalation in Donald Trump's hardline strategy toward Latin America, all right, led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Oh, and this shows that Marco Rubio is got more influence. Trump has been saying this since before he was in office that we need to take care of this shit. Okay, but Rubio, yeah, Rubio's leading him into this. What kind of nonsense is this? It's just freaking stupid nonsense. From the Telegraph, Vietnam builds a runway on a disputed island to counter China's threat. Yes, Marco Rubio, famous for wanting to destroy cartels. Well, before I get into this story here with Vietnam, look, it's not that I don't think that all right, my view of Marco Rubio is not 100% positive. Let's leave it at that. Okay, I do think he's made some nice strides. Okay, I do think that he's pivoted from previous stances of his. I also think that he is a opportunist. Let's put it that way. He's an opportunist with the way things were going. He's able to read tea leaves faster than other people. All right, he is a true politician. Okay, the fact that he is part of the administration is on the winning side to me is more an aspect not of his change of heart, but the fact that he is a freaking politician and he understands where the trends are. If he does what Trump tells him and doesn't mess it up, he'll get by. That's exactly right. Now, do I think that he has undue influence or a great deal of influence on Trump? Not in the least. I don't think he had anything to do, okay, with this strike against the cartels. I don't think he has a problem with it. But the person who has more to do with this than anybody else is Pete Hegseth. Because Hegseth has identified, and the intelligence community, much as another one I'm not always sure about, which is Tulsi Gabbard. The intelligence community has known for decades who these people are and what they've been doing. And Maduro now is only able to stay in power because of the drug cartels. All right. And so he is using gangs like Tren de Aragua, all right, which are basically, he's using them as paramilitary forces from Venezuela. They are basically taking orders, all right, and getting orders from Maduro. I don't think people understand this. Now Maduro comes back and goes, I will stand up there to the evil Americanos. I will sit up there and take them on. If the Americans landed, if we landed in Venezuela, you would see these people run for the freaking hills. They would scatter like the bugs they are. Now, I don't believe we should, because I don't believe that we should do anything aside from if these people continue what they do, bomb their cities out of existence. Bomb them until they say, okay, enough. Why waste American forces on these people? Why waste American lives? Bomb them until they say, okay, we'll stop. I don't believe in sitting up there wasting ground troops on them. Just wipe them off the face of the earth. We don't need to put ground troops to do a lot of this stuff. That's horrible. You're killing innocent. They're not innocent. They're the enemy. Understand the difference. When they stop being the enemy, they can go back to being innocent. Vietnam builds runway on disputed island to counter China threat. Vietnam is ramping up its military presence in the contested South China Sea, satellite pictures suggest. Images show significant dredging and landfilling work in the Spratly Islands at the Allison Reef, Collins Reef, East Reef, and Lansdowne Reef and Petley Reef. A runway also appears to be nearing completion on Borak, Canada, the most developed of the reefs under Hanoi's control. New military outposts have been pictured on another three established islands. Abu Kanya K, I'm not even going to butcher this thing, all right? The scale of which means Vietnam is now a major rival to China in the strategic region. The Spratly Islands are a disputed archipelago of more than 100 islandets and reefs located near the Philippine islands of Palawan and Borneo. All right, many of the land masses being turned into military outposts were small sandbanks just years ago before massive dredging and landfill operations. Along with Vietnam and China, the island chain is also claimed by Taiwan and partially claimed by the Philippines, Malaysia, and Brunei. As of March, Vietnam has developed 21 structures and approximately 70% of as much as much artificial land on the Spratlys as China. Okay, and here's a good map of the area that you're dealing with. This is a it's going to create havoc is what it's going to do. Right? I know a lot of people are upset with all this stuff and it talks about these. China has been trying to push its interest in these regions for a long time. There's a lot of people talking about, oh, these islands, they're dangerous and they're going to be a danger to everything. Okay, they're not. What do you mean? What do you mean? They can put military forces on there. Yeah. Ask Japan how putting military forces on islands you can't support works out for you. Speaking of Japan, Japan's Prince Hisahito, all right, is the first male royal to reach adulthood in 40 years. He may be the last. What kind of stupid crap is this? By Mari Yamaguchi. Japan's Prince Hisahito is the first male royal to reach adulthood in 40 years. Many people in Japan worry he could be the last. The elaborate palace ritual to formally recognize Hisahito as an adult on Saturday are a reminder of the bleak outlook for the world's oldest monarchy. Much of this comes down to its male-only succession policy and dwindling numbers. Hisahito is second in line to the chrysanthemum throne and is likely to become emperor one day. After him, however, there's nobody left, leaving the imperial family with a dilemma over whether they should reverse a 19th century ruling that abolished female succession. A freshman at Tsukuba University near Tokyo, Hisahito studies biology and enjoys playing badminton. He's especially devoted to dragonflies and has co-authored an academic paper on a survey of insects on the grounds of his Akasaka estate in Tokyo. In his debut news conference in March, the prince says he hopes to focus his studies on dragonflies and other insects, including ways to protect bug populations in urban areas. Hisahito was born in 2006 and is the only son of Crown Prince Akishino, the heir to the throne, and his wife, Crown Princess Kiko. He has two older sisters, the popular Princess Kako and the Princess Mako, whose marriage to a non-royal required her to abandon her royal status. Hisahito's coming-of-age rituals fell a year after he turned 18, reaching legal adulthood, because he wanted to concentrate on college entrance exams. Hisahito is the nephew of Emperor Naruhito, who has only one child, a daughter, Princess Akio. All right, Hisahito's father, all right, I'm busy butchering his name, was the last male to reach it in 1985. He's kind of a young guy. I think he has time to sire more children. Just putting it out there. Okay? Just putting it out there. From Yonhap News, former Minister Cho says to consider U.S. Visit to discuss immigration crackdown on South Koreans with the Trump administration. From Pak Boram, Foreign Minister Cho Hyun, said Saturday he may visit the United States to discuss with Washington the arrest of hundreds of South Koreans by U.S. immigration authorities at a South Korean battery plant in Georgia. Cho made the remarks as he presided over emergency meeting on immigration crackdown, confirming that more than 300 out of the 457 people who were taken into custody are South Korean nationals. We are deeply concerned and feel a heavy sense of responsibility over the arrest of our nationals, Cho said at the start of the meeting, attended by two vice ministers, and officials from the ministry and overseas missions. We will discuss sending a senior foreign ministry official to the site without delay, and if necessary, I will personally travel to Washington and hold consultations with the U.S. administration. All right, so let's talk about this, shall we? All right. What you saw in this plant that is now, by the way, shut down because they don't have enough workers again, was a bunch of foreign nationals working at this plant. Now, first of all, it said more than 300 out of 457. Okay, that means that at least 150 or so, probably around 150 or so, who were also taken into custody, weren't South Korean. What were they? Sorry, Koreans, I like you in general, but no special treatment. This is exactly the point. All these people keep talking about, he just hates brown people. He just hates this. No, the crackdown is coming across the board. That's why India is not okay. For people who don't know this, we have tariffed the shit out of India, okay, because they keep buying oil from Russia ostensibly. So why is India not backing down? India is not backing down, all right, because they could get oil from other nations without any problem whatsoever. They don't have to buy Russian oil. The reason that they're doing this is because they're very upset with Washington ending these ridiculous things from these Indians who've been coming over here in droves. In droves. It isn't just Mexicans and Latin Americans that have been invading this country. Asians, especially China, which is dangerous as hell, have been allowed to come in tens of thousands illegally. And this is why a crackdown is necessary. Now, the Koreans are coming over the same way they always do. All right, a lot of these people do. You come over on a quote-unquote tourist visa because you've got relatives in the United States, and there are a lot of South Koreans who married American service members, and now their families are coming over, and then overstaying their quote-unquote visitation visas. They're not following the rules. And since nobody else was following the rules, there was never a big deal, especially when you have administration after administration turning a blind eye to this bullshit. You had a massive battery plant that was building batteries for electric vehicles in Georgia. And you've got hundreds and hundreds of Koreans? You're going to tell me that the Georgians themselves couldn't be, taking those shots? Meanwhile, Comedian Graham Linehan was arrested over trans tweets. A 57-year-old TV writer said he has been ordered not to use social media platform X while he has been released on bail after being detained by armed police at Heathrow. Keir Starmer has told the police to prioritize serious crimes after the comedian Graham Linehan was arrested over gender-critical social media posts. The Prime Minister made the comments after the Father Ted creator was arrested by 5 armed officers at the Metropolitan Police as he got off a flight on Monday at Heathrow Airport. The case has prompted public backlash. Nigel Farage warned ahead of a visit to U.S. politicians that free speech is under assault, because it is. Reform UK leader said that he would raise Lyman's arrest with lawmakers on the U.S. Capitol. Graham Lyman's case is yet another example of the war on freedom in the UK. I will discuss this, the Lucy So Connolly case, all right, and an increasing role are police and non-crime hate incidents on the Capitol Hill tomorrow. That's not under assault. It's not existing. Meanwhile, Labor's big idea is ID cards for all. Blair wanted them 3 years ago, and now, as Macron demands action, we're going to listen to the Frenchie. Starmer takes an interest. Every person in Britain could be forced to sign up for a digital ID card after Emmanuel Macron demanded action to tackle the scourge of illegal working. You have tons of illegals in your country, and you think the problem is British. The problem of illegal workers are the Britons. Downing Street confirmed ministers are examining proposals for a digital ID scheme 15 years after the idea was abandoned following an outcry about the impact on civil liberties. Under one option, anyone applying for a new job would be required to produce their digital ID to demonstrate that they have the right to live and work in the UK. How about you just remove the illegal aliens and you won't have the problem? Oh my god. Oh. Then from the Guardian you have this story. Or I'm sorry, the Daily Mail you have this story. Labour admits it's failing. No shit. Labour's it's never worked. None of them. Hasn't it gotten into your head that leftism never works? That leftist philosophies never freaking work? Hasn't gotten to anybody's head. Starmer to axe more ministers today as ally says explosive reshuffle is a recognition of his disastrous start and migration fury. Now Farage waits in the wings. Labour is today reeling from Keir Starmer's explosive reshuffle of allies, openly admitting that it was a recognition of the government was failing. The Prime Minister is turning his attention to junior ministerial ranks after pulling the pin on a huge cabinet overhaul yesterday in the wake of Angela Rayner's resignation over her tax affairs. Yvette Cooper was shifted from the key job of Home Secretary following a grim summer protest over small boats and migrant hotels to be replaced by hardliner Sabana Mahmood. Yeah, that'll fix it. We're going to get a hardliner who's going to demand it and ram it down your throat. David Lammy was moved from another great office of State of Foreign Secretary to take over Ms. Mahmood's Justice, where he was given a consolation prize of Ms. Rayner's old title of Deputy Prime Minister. A swath of other senior ministers switched priests as Sir Keir tried to rewire his team, although only 2 new names appeared. Oh, you screwed this up. I'll move this one in there. But he screwed up that. That's why I'm moving him out of there because he screwed up that. So I'm going to give him the job over here. It'll fix it. The problem isn't our policies. You're right. They do all need to go to jail. Meanwhile, nudists revolt by suing new property owners for civil rights violations. In California, what a surprise. Residents of long-standing California resort said landlords neglected facilities and roads and imposed a textile rule for decades. Olive Dell Ranch was a celebrated destination regarded as Southern California's friendliest nudist resort. The 136-acre property in Washington, I cannot pronounce that. San Jacinto, all right, foothills, offered affordable rents, miles of hiking trails, and a community of deep ties. But residents say that rapidly deteriorated after the property came into new ownership in recent years. The resort's decision to go textile, explicitly banning nudity across the property, was a blow. But Del Olive also fell into disrepair and longtime occupants were evicted, according to residents. More than 50 and current and former members are suing the property's owners, accusing them of violating their civil rights, unfair business practices, financial elder abuse, and labor violations, among other charges. So the hippies and the nudists refuse to do any work, refuse to keep up their property, all right, and now they're being evicted, and now they're claiming, oh, look at what's happened. Because the new owners are like, get these freaking patchouli oil smelling hippies out of the area. Now you know why. In 2019, Mark Glazier, Brian Cleland, and Tina Coughlett purchased the property and pledged that it would remain a nudist property, the suit states. But in late 2024, okay, which is basically 5 years later, they announced that Olivedale would become a textile park and require clothing at all times on the premises, right? In what the complaint described as a substantial cultural shift. Residents say one owner referred to nudists as nasty people. Just pointing it out, folks. Just pointing out. Trump's job market promises fall flat as hiring collapses and inflation ticks up. The U.S. job market has gone from healthy to lethargic during Donald Trump's first 7 months back in White House, as hiring has collapsed and inflation has started to climb once again as his tariffs take hold. Friday's job report shows employers added a mere 22,000 jobs in August, as unemployment rate ticked up to 4.3%. Factories and construction firms shed workers. Revisions showed the economy had lost 13,000 jobs in June, the first monthly losses since December of 2020 during the COVID pandemic. The new data exposed a widening gap between the booming economy Trump promised and the more anemic reality of what he's managed so far. Um, I've always wondered about a lot of this stuff. Okay, uh, and I don't think the tariffs are going to have the effect that a lot of people say that they are, but they're going to have an effect. And what's more is the rest of the world is seeing a slump right now. Okay, The other thing about this timing is they're talking about August, and job hiring in August is always slower. Okay, and there's going to be more out of work in the next in September because farm jobs basically go down right at the end in the end of September. Okay, so we will see how all this plays out. Now, to be honest, I'm one of the people that was currently laid off, and there are issues, okay, that are going on. So deportations will have a bigger effect on jobs than anything else. I agree. All right, there will be jobs, and by the way, it will have an effect. The deportations are going to have an effect on inflation as well. I know people don't want to hear that, but it's true. But that effect is going to be temporary. Okay, and that's the other thing about this. It's going to be a temporary effect. Okay, is it going to hurt? Yep, it's going to hurt. That's what happens when you rip off the band-aid. H1B needs to be turned off too. I agree. You won't get me to disagree at all. Mystery of former Federal Reserve Governor Klugel's resignation deepens as the real estate records raise new questions. Former Federal Reserve Governor Adriana Kugler's abrupt resignation from the board on August 1st and her unexplained absence at key meetings 2 days earlier left the financial community shocked! Shocked, I say, and confused. They didn't give a shit. All right, nobody announced shock when the two meetings where she wasn't there. Nobody. Where was this shock? All right, that people were talking about because it sure as hell didn't meet the news until what, September? Nominated by Democrat former President Joe Biden, all right, to fill a surprise vacancy on the board and confirmed in 2023, Kugler's term was not set to expire until January 2026. In her August 1st resignation letter addressed to Trump, she offered no explanation for why she was leaving her job just months before her term ended. I am writing to notify you that I am resigning from my position as governor of the Federal Reserve Board effective August 8th, she wrote on 2020 August 8th, 2025, she wrote. It has been an honor of my lifetime to steal from the American people, all right, more money than I've ever been able to have access to in my entire life. No, she said, it has been an honor of a lifetime to serve on the board of governors of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve said in a press conference on August 1st that Kugler will return to Georgetown University as a professor this fall. But Kugler's faculty page on Georgetown's website did not show her teaching any courses this fall. Of course not, because that's what they do. She's a professor emeritus, which means she doesn't actually teach shit. She just gets money from these people, from these leftists. Okay? Now, I'll tell you right now, this woman is in trouble. And she's in trouble for a very similar reason to the other one who Trump is forcing out because they've been conducting illegal activities, all right, by getting sweetheart deals, all right, for their mortgages and basically getting fraudulent mortgages. And they're running around. I didn't do nothing wrong. These people know that they've been wrong. I didn't know she was there to begin with. Trump is forcing out people on the Reserve Board. What he really needs to do is he needs to make a push through Congress to end the Federal Reserve. Just absolutely end it. Get rid of it. A lot of what it does is duplicated by other agencies, okay? And so you don't need it. The SEC does a lot of the same freaking crap and oversees a lot of the same crap that the Federal Reserve does. So why does the Federal Reserve Board even need to be there? Oh, well, they set the interest rates. Why do they have to set interest rates? We don't need somebody setting interest rates for these idiots. We don't. That's what the whole frickin' Secretary of the Treasury is for. He should be doing that. Or she should be doing that. There's literally no reason to have the Federal Reserve. Donors push Mamdani to maximum fundraising cap in the mayor's race. Zoran Mamdani's campaign is said to hit the $8 million spending cap assigned the Democrats' support, especially among small donors in New York City. Bullshit. There is a major leftist PAC funding this SOB. It ain't small donors. Roughly 2 months before New York City's mayoral election, Zoran Mamdani, has raised enough money to hit the $8 million fundraising cap in his campaign, said on Friday. Mamdani, a Democrat nominee and frontrunner in the polls, will announce the fundraising achievement on a video on Friday morning, thanking his supporters and asking them to consider donating time to his campaign rather than money. We can't take any more of your money, he said in a video. Truly, you need to stop. Mamdani's three main rivals trail him in fundraising. Former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who is second in the polls, has about $1.5 million in his campaign account and will keep raising money in the weeks ahead. Mayor Eric Adams, who is in fourth place in the polls, has repeatedly been denied public matching funds and has about $4 million. Curtis Silva, the Republican candidate, has about $3.4 million. Outside spending by super PACs could raise far more money to help one of Mamdani's challengers. Big money donors have held back so far. Not for Mamdani, because one of those PACs gave him $250,000. And that's what we know of. You see, these people do a lot of hanky shit. People don't realize it. Money printer go. Mamdani is going to be a disaster for New York. He is going to bury the city because he's absolutely incompetent. Okay? He is another millionaire Marxist, right? Who's never had to work in his life. He's never held a real job. He's never had to produce anything his entire life. He's always been part of the jet set. And he's going to tell other people how to live their lives because he knows. He knows. That's who these people are. Meanwhile, an outrageous event as Cybertrucks go on the attack. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, a Burning Man attendee was run over by a Tesla Cybertruck. The Cybertruck went nuts and started running over people left and right. It had a mind of its own. A Minneapolis man attending Burning Man was nearly killed last weekend after being run over by a Cybertruck while meditating in in Nevada's Black Rock Desert, according to his shocked wife. He's not going to be walking for months. We were so lucky, said Jade Patrick, told the San Francisco Gate on Thursday. He had been 6 inches, had it been 6 inches more to the left or whatever, they would have just completely crushed his chest or his head, and he wouldn't have been with us. Patrick said that she and her 13-year-old twin sons were nearby when the vehicle, dubbed Art Car, mashed her husband's feet to the point where bones and tendons were visible. JP, a DJ who runs music production school, was airlifted to Reno, and underwent surgery before returning home. The person driving the vehicle, is not even mentioned. I love this. The person driving the creatively modified vehicle stopped to help Following the genuine accident, though Patrick expects her husband's medical bills will top $50,000. However, a GoFundMe set up to help the injured man get back on his damaged feet exceeded its goal of $60,000 by Friday. Burning Man organizers didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. Tales from the event that ended on Monday have continued to make headlines in the days since. On Wednesday, a 37-year-old man who was found dead in a pool of blood at the Burning Man last weekend was publicly identified as Vadim Kuglov of Washington State. His death is being investigated as a homicide. The Pershing County Sheriff's Department also arrested a California man, all right, for allegedly sexually assaulting a woman at the festival, while as well as a convicted felon carrying firearms and large quantities of drugs. None of these criminals, all right, have been identified. We identify all the victims. Here's Brian Nietzman or Niemitz. It's good that you're identifying the problems there, but it would be nice if you identified who the criminals were. I'm just pointing this out, folks. Meanwhile, a picture of the offending truck, the cyber truck that was on the attack, not the freaking idiot that was driving. I can hear people already. No, man, don't you understand? These vehicles, they have a self-driving feature. The truck was driving itself. It went rogue. It was out there to get blood. It tasted blood. Well, I guess we need more people in running in the Capitol. 2 teens arrested in shooting death of a congressional intern. 2 17-year-old males were arrested in the fatal shooting of a 21-year-old congressional intern, U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Gina Janine Pirro, whatever you say her damn name. All right. Tarpinian Yachim, all right, 21, was shot on June 30th outside the Mount Vernon State Metro Station in Northwest D.C., all right, and died in a hospital. He was an intern for U.S. Representative Ron Estes, a Republican serving Kansas, and was a rising senior with a major in finance and a minor in political science from the University of Massachusetts. He was an innocent bystander who was caught in a violent act that was not meant for him, Pirro said in a news conference. His death is a stark reminder of how fragile life is and how violence too often visits us in the nation's capital. Right, this was before the surge, apparently. And there's a picture of him. Eric was a good, smart Republican. Quite frankly, somebody in Congress should have introduced a bill called the Eric Joachim Act that works on increasing police support in D.C., and Congress can do that. A friend, Philip Peterson, told WTTG TV, Metropolitan Police Department and Chief Pamela Smith, who doesn't know what a chain of command is, all right, said Jalen Lucas and Kelvin Thomas Jr. were arrested. A third suspect, also a minor, is being sought. They were charged with first-degree murder and will be prosecuted as adults, Pirro said. The case will be presented to a grand jury and more charges are expected. Investigators believe that Joachim was not the intended target. Several people opened fire on a group of people, and a woman and a 16-year-old boy were also shot, all right, but survived. The suspects have had prior violent juvenile records in family court. The D.C. Council has coddled young criminals for years. They reject mandatory minimums the law requires. They don't force judges to follow the law. Well, the fact that a judge is not following the law should be grounds to instantly remove them. And in fact, that's one of the things that I would do in Congress. If I was in charge of Congress, is I would put in a thing saying if a judge, all right, is proven to have not followed the law, all right, they must be removed, all right, for at least a term of like 5 years. I think that's something that has to happen. I really do. And if people can think on that for a while. Meanwhile, caning, bring back caning. Paper finds Earth may have been terraformed by advanced extraterrestrials. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's one of the most long standing questions in biology. How did life first arise? Research on the topic abounds, but there's no one accepted answer. There is one accepted answer, they just reject it. All right. And according to one paper, the chances that life emerged by pure chance on Earth are so slim that it's possible that our planet was instead seeded by advanced extraterrestrials. While Imperial College London professor of systems biology Robert Endres concedes that the emergence of life could have still been the result of chemical reactions moving from highly disorganized to ordered arrangements, as the Universe Today reports, he's also leaving open to a much more exotic possibility. The aliens did it! Oh, my goodness me. These people keep coming back with, you know, it, it just boggles the mind. All right, how these people they just reject the fact that maybe God exists. Now let's talk about this without getting into any kind of religious discussion here. Let's talk about something else, which is, let's suppose that mankind in the future has the technology to terraform things. Hold on a second, folks. I've got a phone call I gotta take here. Hang on. That was my daughter. All right. Um, Whatever happened to the scientist and his alien meter? I'm sure when the alien meter comes in, we'll know. Um, so, what? I'm gonna have to figure out something else to do with this when I get phone calls like this from my family that I have to answer. That was my daughter, by the way, and she just had a quick question, and I will. I can't answer her at the moment because you guys are more important than what she was relaying to me. So I'm not that concerned about that at the moment. But there is something that I do want to talk about. Let's suppose somewhere in the future, okay, in the distant, and it's a distant future, it's generations away, that we as human beings learn how to terraform planets. Okay, and actually accomplish it. The problem with terraforming a planet will be, when do you land to take over? The purpose of terraforming the planet would be so that you're going to move in, right? But if you're not there already, if you're terraforming a planet, saying, okay, the terraformation will take place over 1,000 years, so in 1,000 years we'll come back. We're just using this as an example. Well, suppose somebody else is there. The ethical, things come to mind. Just pointing it out. Yeah, that's because leftists will make fun of someone for believing in God and then turn around and say that we live in a simulation on a planet terraformed by aliens. But you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Speaking of terraforming, lab grown meat is banned in Texas as of September 1st. Some believe the ban on lab grown meat violates people's constitutional rights. As of September 1st, 2025, the sale of lab grown meat has been banned in Texas for 2 years as part of the Senate Bill 261. The law states that a person may not manufacture, process, possess, distribute, offer for sale, or sell cell cultured protein. Although its production and use were not widely spread in the state, some believe its ban violates people's constitutional rights, impacting what consumers can and can't purchase, like drugs. The Texas ban on cultivated meat is a classic example of a special interest legislation, said Paul Sherman, senior attorney at the Institute of Justice, all right, as he told the Dallas Morning News. The law has nothing to do with public health and safety and everything to do with protecting the powerful agricultural lobby from innovative, out-of-date competition. Cattle ranchers were the most vocal supporters of the law, who say that the ban is a way to protect the industry. Ranchers across Texas work tirelessly to raise healthy cattle and produce high-quality beef, said the Texas and Southwestern Cattle Raisers Association President Carl Ray Polk Jr. Yeehaw! All right, our association is grateful for those legislators who have voted to support this legislation and understand the core of this bill is to protect our consumers, the beef industry, and animal agriculture. Sherman is the lead attorney in a lawsuit against a similar ban in Florida, and he said if a federal court rules in their favor, the same arguments will apply to Texas. The fact that you took it to a federal court is already a problem, Sherman. Okay? You're going to get slapped down. Okay? You're going to lose this battle. Just pointing it out. From a sick individual, a man in a puppy costume strangled a youth. A 46-year-old employee wearing an inflatable dog costume outside where a Florida puppy store allegedly strangled a bike-riding juvenile with whom he had an ongoing dispute, according to court records. Rodney Plathie, all right, who works at the Sunshine Puppies in Clearwater, all right, was outside the business early Friday evening when multiple juveniles rode by on bikes. At the time, Plathie, a registered sex offender, was wearing a puppy suit costume. Cops reported the business is adjacent to a busy roadway, and the costume worker, a law sign spinner, serves to attract attention of passing motorists. Investigators allege that Plathie, who had previously tangled with the young riders, waved the juveniles over to him. He was joined by the puppy store proprietor. As the owner was addressing the group, one of the juveniles sought to ride away as the owner grabbed the bike's handlebars to prevent a collision with himself. Plathie, seen at the left, approached the victim from behind and placed him in a chokehold. The male victim, whose age has not been listed in court records, told police he was unable to breathe for a brief period of time until the defendant released him seconds later. Officers were contacted. Plathie was arrested for battery by strangulation, a felony. The defendant, according to the arrest affidavit, showed an indication of alcohol influence and refused to speak with cops. After 2 days in county jail, he was freed upon posting $10,000 bond. The judge has ordered him to have no contact with the victim. Plathie has an extensive criminal record with multiple battery convictions as well as convictions for burglary and drug possession. He spent 6 years in prison for a 2013 sexual battery case that resulted in his designation as a sex offender. Plathie returned to state custody in 2022 and spent another 30 months behind bars before getting released in October. Hired it for a puppy store. Animal control officers in New Hampshire were able to facilitate a reunion between a mother squirrel and the babies that were accidentally sealed in a wall. The Manchester Police Department said on social media that the baby squirrels were accidentally sealed in the wall of a barber shop during repairs. Thankfully, the barber shop management noticed the issue and opened the wall. The Manchester animal control officers were able to remove the babies from the wall and reunite them with their mother. It sounds like this had been open for a long period of time, and they just finished the repairs, and lo and behold, the baby squirrels were some kind of SOL. I am kind of surprised that the mother took the baby squirrels back, to be honest. 2 more stories. The Michigan Zoo announces the birth of a pygmy hippo calf. The John Ball Zoo in Michigan, announced the birth of a pygmy hippo, the first of its species to be born at the facility in its history. The Grand Rapids Zoo said on social media that the 11-pound calf was born Wednesday to the first-time parents Penelope and Jahari. The Post said the birth was a historic moment as this was the first pygmy hippo calf born at the zoo. Pygmy hippos are an endangered species with fewer than 2,500 estimated in the wild, so each birth is a vital step for conservation, officials wrote. Our animal care team is keeping a close eye on mom and baby as they bond behind the scenes, and both are doing well. Mu Dang, a pygmy hippo born last year at the Khao Khuao Open Zoo in Thailand, took the internet by storm by becoming one of the top TikTok trends of 2024. The viral celebrity celebrated her first birthday in July. I want one. Okay, I'm going to be real blunt, all right, with some of these endangered species. Okay, like pygmy hippos. Okay, if you want to save these species, okay, eat them. People are like, no, man, what the hell are you talking about? Eat them. Every animal that gets eaten, right, gets special treatment by humans. Do you understand this? Having a bathtub hippo would be awesome. You better have a pretty big bathtub. I'm just letting you know, right? It's not the size of your rubber ducky. Okay? I'm just pointing out that human beings keep things alive that they eat. All right? In fact, they farm them. Notice cattle are not an endangered species. Pigs are not an endangered species. If they're endangered and then they get eaten, people will protect them and farm them. The only thing that humans eat and are still an endangered species, to be honest, are whales. Because, well, farming whales would be Well, awesome is kind of difficult. All right, just pointing it out. Just pointing it out. All right, final story of the day, folks. Final story of the day. Great horned owl rescued from a soccer net in Texas. That is an angry owl. All right. Today, Leander Animal Services rescued a juvenile great horned owl. We are calling this feisty one Cutie. I don't think it's cute. It's mad. All right. Cutie, with this feisty cutie keeper, I'm sorry. Keeper was tangled up in a soccer net in one of the schools. We think this happened late last night when Keeper was attempting to capture a golden snitch, right, during their first Quidditch game of the year. Right, it's unknown which house Keeper belongs to. However, 50 points have been awarded to Gryffindor as Dumbledore likes to have his favorites. Look, um, great horned owls are they're beautiful creatures, but they're kind of dangerous. All right. There was actually one that fell out of a tree where I lived, um, and when I was growing up in Nebraska, and we tried to save it, okay, because it was too young to fly. So we tried to give it things and keep it alive. That thing is was mean. It hated us until it no longer existed. Okay, that's all I'm saying about that. The other wild animals found it, and that was the end of it, which is unfortunate for that. But they are beautiful creatures, and they're big. They're a lot bigger than people realize. There's a reason they call them great horned owls because they are so large. So appreciate you all coming. That was the final story. Hope you all have a good day, and I will talk at you all later. Bye bye, everybody.